It might look like they're playing games, but they're not. They're learning simple coding techniques. They're like not giving up. They're problem solving. They're learning how to keep going. My students often, when we do coding, they're like, this is hard. I need help. And I honestly don't really help them because I want them to just keep doing it. And I tell them sometimes you might have to try this like 8 times over. And guess what? It's okay. So just something simple like that, it just gets them learning that they can't just give up or they're not going to get it always on the first time.
Welcome to Rainbow Skies for Teachers, the go-to show dedicated to teachers who want to make a big difference in education. Whether you're in your first few years or well into your teaching career, we are here to inspire, support, and empower you with bite-sized tips, simple strategies, and the motivation to lead an education revolution, one classroom at a time.
We're Ashley and Alicia from Rainbow Sky Creations, 2 Aussie teachers who love all things teaching and learning. We are here to help you thrive as you work toward making an impact in your students' lives while loving your life as a teacher.
We are here to help you bring joy, simplicity, and creativity into your classroom on the daily, because
there are rainbows ahead, my friend, and together we're unstoppable.
Let's get into today's episode.
Rainbow Sky Creations acknowledges the traditional owners of the land we have recorded this podcast on, the Dharawal and Whadjuk Noongar people. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures.
Welcome to Rainbow Skies for Teachers. I am so happy you are here. Thank you so much for joining me. Today, it's not just me and you here in this conversation. We are going to be joined by a guest named Dena. Now, what is Dena passionate about? You probably have seen by the title. She is passionate about STEM. Now, I've known Dena, we've been online friends for a couple of years now, and I've always appreciated what she did, but I was never really overly excited about her area of expertise. I mean, STEM, I can see the importance of it. I can see why kids enjoy it. I can see why we should do it. Do I have an interest in creating STEM resources or STEM lessons or implementing more STEM in my classroom? The honest answer is no, not really. And when I first talked to Dena about joining us on the podcast, I honestly didn't even really know where to start with the questions. I was thinking this topic is just not one that I'm really, gung-ho about. And I said to Dena, can we work on these questions together? And we started working on the questions together, and then it got me more in the flow. And then I put together the outline for the episode. And I thought, look, I'm really interested to see how this episode goes. And without spoiling it, oh my gosh, I was inspired. It just sparked something inside me, and I just wanted to keep hearing Dena's ideas. They seem to come to her really naturally, and I'm sure that some of you teachers out there, these ideas are going to come naturally to you. And then others, you might be in my camp where these sorts of things don't come so naturally. You're thinking more on like the craft and art side, or you're thinking more on, the literacy side of things or the math side of things. But Dena really talks about creativity, bringing that together with different STEM tasks, STEM challenges, and even using STEM as a fast finisher tool. So let's dive into this interview. I think you're going to really enjoy it. A warm welcome to Dena. Dena, let's start with a pitch. Why STEM?
Well, actually, it just fell into my lap. I was teaching for 3 years technology, and I wanted to just do something different with my students. I wanted to push my students, and this was 10 years ago. So there wasn't that much talk about STEM in the elementary grade levels. So I really started getting grants for robots. I started doing hands-on challenges with my students, and I just fell in love with everything that has to do with STEM and getting the students thinking and problem solving and being creative. So now I just love it. I got moved to different teaching positions, so I do focus more on everything related to STEM. And I feel like those skills are just so important for students for the future. So I think STEM is awesome. And my husband is an engineer, so he is huge into everything STEM as well.
So you're like a STEM family. Throughout this podcast, I'm hoping I'm going to open my mind a little bit about STEM, because my feeling is that, not that I don't like it. I just feel like I'm not good at it as a teacher. Like I'm
Yeah.
not good at providing these activities for students. So if there's teachers out there that feel like me, that feel overwhelmed at the thought of just like adding one more thing, like, okay, I've got to do reading, I've got to do writing, I've got to do math. Now I've got to add in STEM. What are some simple ways classroom teachers can start weaving STEM or technology activities into their regular routines without it just feeling like extra work?
I would say look at what you're currently teaching. Like, what topics are you doing right now? Because if you're someone like you're saying, if you're doing reading, you can take a favorite classroom story and just add a little building challenge to it. And I think you have to look at also like what grade you're teaching, because if you're teaching in an elementary, if you're teaching in a lower grade level, it doesn't have to be super fancy and crazy because you're teaching students those skills. So, something like a building challenge, something like any kind of problem solving, something with a team, you're building all of those like foundational skills and you can still get them hands on. I would just say look at what topics you're teaching and think of like, how can I add something hands on, something more challenging? Maybe you could pick like a Friday towards the afternoon and it could be like a STEM Friday where you say, okay, we're going to take 30 minutes at the end of the day, or like one of your science periods, you can replace it with something more hands-on, and that could be where you're teaching the engineering design process and adding in just some hands-on creative activities. So you can really take what you're already doing and make a little twist to make it a bit more exciting and get the students to like complete some type of challenge or task.
I'm really liking the idea of taking your Friday afternoon because I think that is a time period that you're thinking, oh, the kids are tired, you're tired. It's
Yeah.
not a great time to do your deep learning, your reading activities, etc. But this could be something that you could get high buy-in for the kids. Like, say I had a grade 2 class, it's a Friday afternoon. Can you give me an example of a STEM activity that I could do with them?
Yeah, you could do something as simple as giving them little task cards where they maybe build with whatever kind of material you might have in your classroom. You could come up with a lesson from an activity that week, or I do a lot of seasonal lessons. So if it's around summer, you could have them build something that has to do with outdoors and something that they might use. Like you could say, okay, invent like a device to carry all your beach equipment in. Or if it's like around Halloween, you celebrate Halloween there, right? Or
We
no?
do. It's not as big as America, but we do.
Well, if it's some kind of holiday, you can make a twist off something with that. Even like a holiday like Christmas, you can say, all right, build like a table to hold all the toys. Like it could be just something simple that you throw in on like the end of the week. And like you said, kids are burnt out, they're tired. So doing something hands on, doing something engaging will definitely like motivate them to step it up a bit.
Yeah, and incorporating those events throughout the year. I think American teachers do this so much better than we do here in Australia. We have tried to jump on board with some of the themes over the year, but we don't teach in themes as much as what I see you guys doing. And I love it because I
Yeah.
think kids really get into it when they're involved in a theme and it's relevant for right now in that moment.
Yeah, like any holiday, any like seasonal, I go with that, especially for the younger grades. They really like that.
Yeah. Okay, so if a teacher wanted to set up a STEM or a maker space in their classroom, what would you recommend as some must have materials or just some organizational tips to keep it all manageable?
For organizing, I love using bins. I buy small little like bins and I store all my materials in there. So if you have any type of shelving in your classroom or closet, or even if you go out and buy like a little cart, you can keep a little STEM section in your classroom. And again, if you want to incorporate it, even if you teach reading or writing or math, you can make like one area of your classroom with a few shelves where you keep everything in. You can put some posters, and that could be like your STEM zone, your STEM corner, and grab on a certain day of the week. And as far as material goes, my philosophy is like really always like use what you have.
Mm.
So you could get, I call them like reusable materials. So these are materials you can use over and over again. I use this a lot because I teach multiple classes. So the students are coming in and out in different grade levels, like really quickly. So some days where it's just too hard to clean up and set up, I keep my materials in bins and I'll pull out my Lego bins and I'll put them on the table. And then once it's time to clean up, the students quickly put them back in and we can easily just put them back on the shelf. It makes it a little quicker to clean up and set up. So you can get materials like Legos, blocks, magnet builders, wooden blocks, anything like that. I've got grants for it. I've gotten things from friends, families who are giving away toys, garage sales, like anything like that. And then the next kind of category I usually say is recyclables. So these are easy to get. You can make a donation list if you want to do a project, send it home to your families, and everyone can collect tissue boxes or a box that came in the mail or a snack box. So that is like always easy to get and it's free. So you can easily do a project with toilet paper rolls and tissue boxes. Like my students build robots. You can do all fun things. And then the other category I usually call it is like craft materials. So these are things that you probably have in your classroom anyway. Like you can use index cards, popsicle sticks, straws from the lunchroom, plastic spoons and forks, construction paper, anything at all. I build with all of those things depending on the day and the activity. Sometimes I let my students do something more challenging where they're using recyclable materials and they're cutting and they're taping. And other times they're just using blocks and they're still doing all the same skills. It just depends on the setup you have.
What I really like about these suggestions, Dena, is that these are all really easy things to access and they're not expensive. Like the craft materials, we've got those already in our classroom. And often teachers are getting rid of things. And that's when you can start
Yeah.
collecting as well. Recyclables, as you said, getting the kids involved, asking them to bring things in. And then your idea of reusable materials. I know I'm in that phase of motherhood where my kids are all gone to school now. So we don't need as many blocks and magnetic tiles. We still need some because we play with them on the weekend, but we're not here every day playing at home. So I would love for those things to get a new home, and the school is a perfect place to send them. So you could do a call
Yeah.
out at the beginning of the year saying, hey, listen, we're looking for more Lego if you've got something that you want to donate.
Yes, exactly. That's what I've done. I've just asked like my own family and friends, is anyone getting rid of stuff? And people have given me so much.
Yeah, amazing. And people want to help schools too, don't they? If they
Yeah.
can.
Yeah, people love that. Yes.
So when we were emailing back and forth, you spoke about an idea that I hadn't really thought of before, and it's about taking a storybook or a picture book and then extending it into a hands-on STEM activity. I'm really excited to hear what you have to say about this, Dena. Can you share a few examples for us? Because I think our listeners out there would be like, oh, tell me more. I want to know some ideas that I could use in my classroom.
Yeah, I think if you look at your favorite books that you might read, again, if they're seasonal or there's something you read at a certain time of year or something even that goes with your lessons and curriculum, you can think of how can I turn this into something hands-on that my students can build? How can I pick something that the character was using in the story or something that needed to be solved? There's always something in there. So like some examples that I personally do, I'm heading back to school in America, in New Jersey now. So at the start of the year, I do with my younger students a crayon box challenge. So we read the story The Crayon Man, which is all about Crayola and how the crayons got started. So it's fun because we tie in like that little history about how it got started. They don't really know much about it. We talk about it with the book. And then we just do something simple. They have to literally build some type of, well, I don't give them much instruction. I just say you have to build something to hold crayons. And some students build a simple box, and some of them build something with a handle, something they would want to carry around. And they come up with all different ideas. I tell them it has to have a way to keep the crayons inside, so you don't want it to be open. So they make some kind of lid. And I've done this with just using Lego and blocks. And I've also done it where the students are cutting and using like index cards and construction paper to build something. So that's a fun one. Another fun book, I don't know if these books are as popular in Australia or not, but there's a book, The Pigeon Has to Go to School. You
Yep,
read
we
that?
know it.
Okay, yeah, that's a fun one for like the beginning of the year. So I read that with the students, and then the students have to build their own type of transportation to get the pigeon to school. And what I do is I print out little pigeons from the story and I'll cut them out and I put them with like a little cube in the back, something to make it stand. So the students actually have the little pigeon and they could stick it in whatever device they make. And I also will show them different pictures of kids from all around the world going to school. Like some kids take a boat to school. If they're in Thailand, there's a picture of kids on the boat, or they might take some kind of bicycle to school. I show them all different things, and then they have to invent something or build something. So we read the book, we talk about the book, they get some literacy, and then they also get to build.
Amazing. I love those.
And yeah, they're by Mo Williams. He has
Yeah,
all.
yes. They are fun books. One of my kids, my youngest, absolutely loves them.
Anything with any kind of book, really. Like if you just pick something that has to do with the character, has to do with something fun that happened inside the book.
What about Creepy Carrots? I don't particularly know this book, but give us a rundown.
Creepy Carrots is a fun Halloween based book. So basically, the main character is a bunny. So he goes to eat the carrots and then he envisions that the carrots are like following him around and chasing him. So for the carrots to escape and like get out of their little garden. So again, I print out like little pictures of the carrots that are similar to the ones in the book. And the students can use the little props as they build, and they build little baskets. And then I make a zip line. Again, it might sound fancy, but I literally take a piece of string, tape it from a high point in my room, like my bookcase, and tape it to somewhere lower. And then the students get to test it. Their basket goes down the zip line and they go crazy. They love it. They love that.
Listening to these stories is making me excited about learning. And this is what I love about teaching and talking to teachers all over the world is that I came into this interview and I'm like, I'm not really a STEM person. It's not my gig. I'm not good at this as a teacher. And then now I'm listening to these ideas thinking, no, I could totally do that in the classroom. But not only that, I would know that my kids would absolutely love it.
Yeah, and the more you like get comfortable, the more you think about it, you'll just get ideas. That's what happens to me. I'll be looking at something, a book or something the students talk about. I'm like, ooh, we could do this. And
Yeah.
I come up with something new.
If Alicia was here on this interview, she would be saying, you could read a book to the kids and ask them what they could come up with. She's really big on asking the
That's a
kids for
great
the
idea.
ideas. Yeah. And they come up with amazing things because they don't have that
Yeah.
limited mindset that sometimes we do as adults.
Yes, that's perfect.
So the next thing I wanted to ask you about is early finishes. And this is something that I would lean into as a teacher. And it's something that I've recommended so many times to other teachers. Early finishers are always looking for something to do. And this is a really good time to integrate STEM into the learning. So what are some quick low prep STEM activities that teachers could keep on hand to channel this energy productively and get them still working on something?
Something I use is just simple task cards. I created these little building task cards, and they basically just have pictures of all different things that students can build. It could be a tree, it could be a baseball, it could be a beach bucket. And I give them out, like, again, sometimes seasonally. I have like different themed ones. But if you have, like I said, I keep my materials in bins. So if you had a student that finished early, they could go grab the task cards. They could grab like a bin of Legos, or you could have them in like a Ziploc bag, like enough for one student to work on. And they could just build quietly at their desk. And I like using the task cards because I always tell my students, I know that you can build a tower, you could build a wall or castle out of Legos or blocks. My little girl who's going to be 3 does that. But building a tree out of Legos is challenging, or like an ice cream cone out of Legos is tricky. And I like to push the students. So something simple like that, someone might think like, oh, well, they're just building, like it's nothing major. But no, they're really like, they have to push themselves. They have to challenge themselves. They have to not give up. Sometimes like they get stuck, they don't know what to do. And I think all of those small skills like are really helpful. They end up creating like really cool things. Another activity that I really like, I've created these art sheets where basically there's like an object in the middle. It might be an Easter egg. And instead of it being an Easter egg, they have to change it into something else. I tell them they have to like disguise it into something else. So I have, again, different seasonal ones. In the summer, there's a shovel, or there might be a football, like a sports one. And you could take anything. So you could look at what time of year it is. And I literally just take a simple object and put it on the paper, and I tell them to turn it into something else. And they form like a whole scene on the paper, adding backgrounds, adding details, and it gets them creative. So that one's easy for early finishers because it doesn't require any extra materials. So if you just want to have students getting creative but also make it simple, you could have a bin with all these different papers, and the students could quietly get up and grab it, and they just need some crayons and a pencil. But it really does get them thinking. I'm always impressed. I use this from grade 1 up, and I'm like, whoa, you came up with that idea. I had a girl turn like a pool float into like a hamburger with french fries on the side and a soda, and the whole thing looked so cool. When you looked at the picture, you didn't see a pool float, you saw a hamburger. So it's a fun, like, creative challenge.
Yeah. And it's about giving the kids opportunities too. Maybe you knew that student could do that, but maybe you didn't.
Yeah, I think it's good because it's simple for teachers. Like, you just need to photocopy. They get really creative. They really enjoy those activities. So I've made all different themed ones, and I've been using them for years.
So the building cards and these drawing sheets, do you have those for sale in your TPT store? If someone's listening to this and they're like, oh, I want that, but I don't want to start creating these from scratch.
Yeah, I do. I do. Actually, I looked the other day and it's almost like 550 items, which I can't even believe I
Oh
have
my
so many.
gosh.
So I've got all sorts of things.
Okay, I might get the link to the building cards and then get the link to some sort of art activity that you're talking about, and we'll put that in the show notes. So if people want to go and check it out and just get started, I'm feeling really inspired by this conversation. So I'm sure that other people out there are feeling the same way. Okay, so I feel like you have definitely introduced this to us already, and you've really proved the point that STEM is more than just science and math. It's also about creativity and problem solving. So, what are some ways that teachers can foster those skills through simple classroom activities?
Well, I try to incorporate math and different science because, again, like, science can be all sorts of things. But even with math, like when they're building these small little challenges, I'll give them rulers and I'll tell them to measure, or we'll time, like, maybe if they're like the zip line, they might time it to see like how many seconds. So I do try to incorporate a little bit of all that. But again, I think it depends on your grade level. If you're teaching more like the fifth, sixth grade, you can definitely do more with your students to even add more of the math and science. I think if you look at like what you're teaching, like even if you're a science teacher or you have to teach a science period, like look at what topics you're covering. Cause like something like animals, you could have them, like if you're learning about different type of animals or different areas in the world, like habitats, they could then build a home for the type of animal. And then you're getting that like hands-on building and bringing it to life in addition to what you're teaching them. In math, like I know a lot of teachers build like those 3D towns or buildings, and they do different puzzles or logic. All of that can tie together to bring that in even and make it a little more simple. So you can use those activities to say like, how can I incorporate a little bit of technology, a little bit of the engineering in there too.
Yeah, amazing. By the sounds of it, the more you integrate across the subjects, the better.
Yeah, I think it all ties together, and you can do a little bit of each thing to like hit all those levels. Like I think science can be a lot of things. You can be doing experiments, but also you can be doing something a little more simple. So I would
Yeah.
definitely say look at the topics you're teaching and just think of like, how can I pull in some like hands-on activities to mix everything together?
Let's talk about some fun, easy tech tools because, as I said, I'm not really a sciencey person, but I'm sure there's people listening to this that are like, I'm not a techie person. So, what are some easy tech tools that can help us as teachers bring these STEM concepts to life for our students, even if we don't feel like tech experts?
I think if you're not that techy, you can definitely incorporate some coding to your classroom, which I know could sound scary if you've never done coding. You might say, I have no idea how to do that. But honestly, your students can teach themselves and learn. And again, it gets them problem solving and thinking. So, one amazing website is code.org. If you haven't heard of that, it's completely free. So, you can make a teacher account, you can have student accounts, or they can get on the website without even logging in. But there's access to so much stuff, and it might look like they're playing games, but they're not. They're learning simple coding techniques. They're like not giving up. They're problem solving. They're learning how to like keep going. My students often, when we do coding, they're like, this is hard. I need help. And I honestly don't really help them because I want them to just keep doing it. And I tell them sometimes you might have to try this like 8 times over, and guess what? It's okay. So just something simple like that, it just gets them like learning that like they can't just give up, or they're not going to get it always on the first time. If you have an iPad, you can definitely download some coding apps like Codable, Code Cart, Code Safari. Those are all fun. Otherwise, if you're using a computer, code.org is really great. If you do have access to a tablet or some kind of device, even like phones, if your students have phones or, they can use them. I like doing stop motion animation. So this is a fun way to incorporate technology and also tie in lots of stuff, because your students can write stories or bring a story that you read in class to life, or they can make stop motion with a science project, like so many things. Even like solving a math problem, they can animate how to do it. It sounds fancy, but again, it's simple. You really just need a device, and you need like some kind of prop. The prop could be construction paper, a small piece of construction paper. It could be M&Ms. And your students are taking lots of pictures over and over and over again, moving something small. And then when it gets put all together, it makes it look like animation, like it's moving. So it's a technique that they use in movies still today. So I love showing my students that because it's something in the real world that they can try to do. There's another really cool app called Quiver Vision. That one is augmented reality, which means that you're looking through the iPad, like your classroom, your chairs, the kids, everything around you, but thing like a peer that's not really there. So it's also something cool just to introduce to the students and show them. So these are fun. These are fun, simple, and you can figure it out.
We love things that are fun. We love things that are simple. And I think as teachers too, you touched on the point that the kids need to have that growth mindset to be able to keep going. And we need to be able to do that too. And sometimes modeling that to our students and saying like, I don't know how to use this app either. Let's work it out together. Or this is the first time I've ever done stop motion animation, but we're going to work this out together and we're going to learn along the way.
Yeah, I'm a little tough with my kids because I will say, you're going to figure this out. And they want to get frustrated. But I think that's such a good skill to teach them. Just keep on going.
Yeah, definitely. It reminds me, yesterday I had my kids in the front yard with the neighbor and they decided that they were going to hit golf balls. Look, it probably wasn't the most safest and they had golf clubs out and golf balls, but I was standing there with them and my 5-year-old, she swung that club like a minimum of 100 times and it did not once connect with the ball. The club did not connect with the ball. Like she just could not get it, but she kept going and going. And at the final hour, she finally connected and she was like, yes. And we were like, that's amazing. What's better than the fact that you've hit the ball, that you didn't give up. You just kept trying and kept trying.
Aw, I know. That's the best, especially at a young age, because I feel like the students now, like even adults, like we're so used to everything happening so quickly, like instant, that now our brains are almost wired to like, we can't wait long or we can't try things over. And that's not reality when you go to actually fix something or do something. So I really think like all of the hands-on stuff, these kids need that. And it's not built into schools, at least over here, not as much as it used to be. So I do think it's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite things when I was at school was, I think it was, actually, I can't remember how old I was, but we were doing tapestry.
Oh,
Like, you
Yeah,
know, the
that's
arts and
cool.
craft tapestry. We all did it and
Yeah.
I loved it. We used to go and sit outside and parents would come and help, like with threading the needles, and everyone would do their tapestry. And we did it for like a 10-week block and we all had an artwork at the end of it, which was amazing. But I was talking to my mum, who is a teacher too, and she said, we've lost all of that in schools. We don't do those sorts of things now. And there was a certain frustration that came with doing those tapestry. You had to learn how to thread the needle. Sometimes you did it and it didn't look very good. And there was a big learning curve, but also we were giving kids time out and we were getting parents involved. There was so many different parts. And I feel like after our conversation that we've had today, STEM's another way that we can start to incorporate some of these skills into our classrooms as well as meeting the outcomes, because we know that's important, but we want to also have fun and get kids thinking creatively.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's so important. And I think it's definitely going away, which is sad because kids also just need to be kids and
Yeah.
they don't get that. Like, and at home, they're not getting that. So it's like, well, now we do have to add it into the school more because some kids might go home and I ask some of my students and they tell me they play video game. I'm like all night or like watch TV. Like parents are busy, families are busy. And they need their time. So the kids are on a device or they're doing, and they're not getting all of that. At least if we can tie it in the classroom, it's something.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so what is your advice to teachers who might be feeling a bit hesitant about diving into STEM, even though this conversation has been really uplifting and like, I want to go and give it a go now? If we've still got a teacher that doesn't feel confident with their own science, tech skills, what would you say to them to encourage them?
I would definitely say just start basic and small. You don't have to do these huge projects or something super fancy. You can use some of the ideas that I mentioned. You can start with just letting kids play around with blocks or Lego and see what happens. You can use some kind of simple sheets, anything that you want to start with, whether it's taking what you're already doing and just seeing if you can have a little STEM time at the end of the day once a week or something like that. But I think look at your grade level. If you're teaching kids that are 7 years old, it's going to look different than 15 years old. Start small and remember, it's also about the skills. Like you can do something where students work as a team because learning how to take different roles, learning how to communicate with other people, that's a huge skill. Getting them to problem solve, like not give up, like we've talked about. If you can just build that, then that's important too. I feel like that is something that's a major piece in STEM, especially at the younger age. Like I try to teach that to my students, expose them to new things and new stuff, things that they're not doing in their regular classroom. And I feel like all of that, maybe I'm not always doing the right thing, but like to me, I'm exposing them and just opening their eyes to something new and giving them that time that they might normally not have. So I feel like there's got to be something that's helpful and beneficial.
Definitely. I love that. I feel like you're really on the right track. So we have started something new on our podcast. I feel like it's not actually that new anymore because we've been going for a couple of months now where we have a mystery question that's been left by another guest for you to answer. So this is not STEM related. And I'll get your question off air for another guest. But your question is, well, it's actually a sentence. You need to complete this sentence. Every teacher needs.
A backup plan.
That is so
Especially
relevant.
Yeah. And especially when you're doing something with STEM, because you might think like, there's been times where I've created something and I'm like, wow, I can't wait to see what the students do. And then they might be stumped. Like maybe it's too tricky and they're struggling or so you gotta go with the flow and always just have something else up your sleeve.
Yeah, I think that's important for like no matter what you're teaching, always have a backup plan. I love that. So, as we wrap up, Tina, can you tell us where can our listeners go and find you and connect with you and find all your wonderful resources to make STEM easier for them?
Well, I have my TBT store, which is Miss Tech Queen, and all of my social media is Miss Tech Queen. So I have a Facebook, Instagram, my website, and I also wrote a book for children. So I felt like I wanted a simple book for my classroom that just said like, what is STEM, to review each letter of STEM and what they mean in the world like that we live in for little kids to get. So I wrote this book and it is on Amazon and also my website. Hopefully you can check it out.
Amazing. I'll make sure that we link the book in the show notes too. I got to have a little sneak peek of it before we started recording, and it is so cute, you guys.
Thank you.
Dena, thank you so much for sharing your passion with us. You can really hear the passion in your voice when you talk about STEM, but not only that, I feel like it's contagious. The more you spoke, the more I thought, oh, I want to give that a go. I want to give that a go. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for having me. And if anyone has questions, you can always message me. I'm happy to help, like give ideas, and you can walk me through what you're doing. I love meeting and talking to other teachers. So thanks for having me. And I hope I can visit Australia soon.
Yes, come visit us. Dena's name on socials is Miss Tech Queen, and isn't she a queen? Throughout this interview, she had me change my mind. Like, I did a complete 360 about STEM. How fun does it sound? I can see why when my kids come home from school and they've been in the STEM room, they say, oh, the best thing happened today, Mum. We went to the STEM room. They have a specialist teacher like Dena is, who is very passionate about STEM. And I love how Dena just brought together the simplicity of including it in your everyday classroom. When she was talking, I always thought, it's beyond me. I'm not like that sciencey person, but I can get out Lego blocks. I can have magnetic tiles. I can have craft supplies that my students can actually go and create things and make things. If you are a little bit of a more seasoned teacher, I will say, like me, back in the day when I first started teaching, there was a part of the science curriculum called Design and Make. And the kids would do a project and they would design something and make something. And that is very much down the line of what Dena was talking about with STEM. And if you remember doing those projects back in the day, we'd actually, how I ran my classroom is that I had the students decide what they were going to create. It was within some theme. And then they would bring in all their recycled materials. And then we would just dedicate a full day and the classroom would look like a bomb had gone off and everyone was making, creating. And you could just hear that, the sticky tape going. But it was so much fun. And some of the creations, look, they were okay. Some of them were brilliant. And I guess it's about giving the kids the opportunity, even if, it's not your passion or it's not your thing. So I really, really appreciated Dena coming on and changing my mind about STEM and opening my mind about STEM. And I think that's one of the most wonderful things about podcasts like this and other podcasts out there is that we can connect with teachers all over the world and learn new things and learn from each other. So thank you so much for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, we would love it if you could leave us a review. I know it's a bit of a shameless ask, but it's one of those things that really, really, really does help. So if you're willing to give back or if your mind was changed about STEM, write us a quick review. We would absolutely love it. We will be back here, same time, same place next week. We will see you then. But before I go, you know the drill. There are rainbows ahead, my friend, and together we're unstoppable. See you next week.